All right, we are on today. Super special guest, Ian Mad Wizard Hosek. What's up, dude? How are you?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. I think you guys do fun things on this show.
So we're hoping you're going to add to some of the fun for sure today.
I will certainly bring some character.
So last we did an emergency episode about what the Spartan Changes. So I want to take legitimately 10 minutes. I'm going to set a timer. We're going to talk about it just so we don't do
good luck
an hour 20 on it. But Ian, would love to hear your take on this. And like after we've had some time to decompress a little bit, I don't know if my takes have changed really at all, but or if I've thought about it really that much. But I want to kind of open it up a little bit more if see if we know anything else. So Ian, what's your take on the changes? Let's talk about the 3K national series first.
Yeah, it's certainly a change. I personally don't like it at all because I mean those races are fun, but not what I really get me excited. So I don't know what I'll be doing next year for if I'll be racing any Spartan competitions. I'm definitely looking forward to other races and other OCR races. The lap format I think will be really good for filming. I think the heat style format is a terrible idea. Having two 1K heats and then going into like a final 3K, those 1K races are not even the same sport. That's like entirely different energy systems. They're going to be like what 5 to 6 minute races, if
probably that. Close 6 to 7. That's my guess.
That's not the same as a 3K race. Like I would see people doing very well in those heats and then just floundering in the 3K event.
So that was something
I think that's horrendously designed.
It's a little silly. It's like ORM had Watson and oh my God, I'm blank, and Steve Hammond on to kind of talk about the whole process of this. And it was a great interview. Go ahead and listen to that. It's on YouTube. He probably did a podcast, so I'm not sure. But they Matt asked them about this, and their answer was, yeah, like they're different. And then that was it. There was no like follow up. It was basically just other different, but there's no. But it's based on time. It was more of a reason to have time. Bracken, what's a better solution for 3 heats or 2 heats and 1 final of 2 different distances?
I mean, if you must have heats, you run just the heats of the full 3K. Maybe I could just give in and say 2K, and then it's time-based to get to final. Winner of the top 2 in each heat, plus the next blank fastest times, everyone gets into the final. You don't have to run 2 by 1,000. You can run by 3, 1 by 3,000 or 1 by 2,000 if you must have heats. If you absolutely must. You have to test what the test is going to be in the final. So you run the 3K prelim and you run the 3K final. And you do it, I don't know, an hour apart. I don't see why we have to have heats, to be honest. But if you must go off of time, not prelim, semifinal. Name me one distance sport in the world that does prelim, semifinal on the same day. Just one.
Well, they don't.
Distance. Yeah, I was going to say the 100, but that's not distance.
Yeah, they don't. And name me one. The only example someone gave us of a sport that does shorter prelim than final is like motocross. But again, that doesn't have energy system requirements, so it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I think there's no need for it. But if you must, then just do 1 round. First 2 across the line plus the next fastest.
Also in motocross, though, that's actually a pretty like physically intensive sport. However, their laps aren't like they're still probably going to do longer than a 7-minute course.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I can't speak to it. Go ahead.
We didn't talk about this, but it sounds like you want big Q, little Q as your qualifying.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
For people in the track world, like big Q means you have a certain predetermined number of spots within each heat. Doesn't matter how fast or slow that heat is, you get in because you placed well within your heat. Little Q is filled by the next fastest time-wise to get enough people in the next round.
Yeah, they did this at what was that? OCR Warrior finals at OCR World Championships way back in the day. They had like a 400 meter course and then a 700 meter final. And they did 5 heats. And it was the first 2 across, I think just first 3 across the line in every heat made the final. That's tricky though, because if you do a short trial, like Ian said, if you do a 1,000-meter trial, anyone can go out and run hard for 5 or 6, not anyone, but anyone decent can go out and run hard for 5 or 6 minutes. And then the favorites have to go all out, maybe not make it. And so in the final, you have people that either didn't deserve to be there because they're not good at 3K or are smoked from having to run 2 by 1,000 all out in the same day. So it's just a weird system. I would prefer a time trial 3K or whatever at the very first event. The first event is just time trial based. You send one person off every 60 seconds and it's chip timed, and that seeds you for the year. And then from that seeds you for the first race of the year, and you have a fast heat and a slow heat at the first race. And then that trickles down throughout the whole year. You just keep shuffling who's in the fast heat. But otherwise, yeah, one prelim, one.
Did you guys see? Maybe I misread it or I'm making this up in my mind, but I thought they said they're sending them off 2 minutes apart. The heats, was that? Did you guys see that?
I really hope not, because the whole thing with the 3 heats that I do think makes sense is the story that it could tell. Yeah. It's like, okay, this guy won this one, and now we'll see them converge to see how they do when the competition's a little bit more, and then we'll see how when they meet each other in the final. If the races are off at the same time, you're not going to be able to catch any of that story to then tell or to then like pick up. So I think that's
the only good thing is the story. And like the fast heat thing that you just laid out, Bracken, I think there is also a season long story. Like if we do the heats, that is confined to that specific one race. But if we have it, it's like, over the course of the season, Jack wasn't in the top heat, but now he's made himself into the top heat, and you can really kind of follow the progression and have reason to keep coming back. But if they're not going to do the stories within the one race, 2 minutes at a time, because they're that worried about time, just make it less people. Not why 45. There's no way there are 45 good athletes to see this through.
So I actually looked it up, and there are something like 150 to 200 athletes who have been in the top 5 this year in an elite race. And if you look at like podiums only, it's like 120, but what percent of those are going to show up to any given race? Not all of them, but I think you will be able to fill at least like 80% of the field with pretty respectable athletes.
120 athletes, Ian Hosek, you hear that? You could have been one of those this year.
I have a question for Ian.
I can still be one if I want to.
Go out and do it.
Ian, I have a question for you. Because my take on this is they did not consult anyone who is a runner.
I don't think they consulted anyone in general.
Right. So let's say that you were going to. I'm going to consult you because you are not only a runner and an OCR athlete, you are a coach, and you dive into the science side of it. So let's say out of shape to in shape, like preseason to peak season. Let's say a contest. This is going to be roughly a 20-minute 3K final, right? Let's just call it a 5K. Because it's in between the 1K time, which will be 7 minutes, and the final, which is 20. Let's just call it a 5K. Of all the people you can think of, pros, people in this sport, first race of the season, coming off of base or transitional base or whatever, to final race of the season, fully peaked. What is the difference in the 2 times you're going to put up? Like how much difference do you, if you wanted to run one in week 1 and one in week 16, what's the difference in 5K time you would see?
I mean, in that in 5K time, that's like, and it depends on the athlete you're working with. If we're looking at the high levels, you're going to see like at most 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was thinking.
And I think
seconds.
That's astronomical. I was going to say 20 to 30 seconds.
At the top. But a lot of that, especially with this type of race, is you can find technique. Like fitness wise, you'll probably get like a minute at the most. And that's let's
take technique out of it. Actually, let's say only fitness. How much can you change in fitness over 4 months in a 5K?
Are you
let's
saying
say someone who's one of the top 45 in the sport already?
I think 90 seconds is fair. Coming out of base.
You might debut in like
it depends on what you do in the off season as well. Like it's different athletes. I would say capping full hard cap at 2 minutes.
All right, Jack, what was your response to that? I have a place I'm going to take this.
I was going to say you start your off season, you're on like a 17:30 or something. Like you've done no speed work or anything, and then later on you drop down to 16 flat or something. So that ratio, you've got about an 8 to 9% improvement over the course.
Okay, so what I'm saying here,
which is massive, huge difference,
is if you have your first event of the year and run your solo time trial, you probably will take those 120 to 150 athletes and already know who are the people that can be good at this. Because yes, there's going to be ratio that's going to change here in terms of maybe not ratio, but like finishing placements over people finding ways through the course, but everyone's going to find ways through the course. Those ways through the course are going to add 5 to 10 second swings, but the general fitness needed to be good at 3K, you're going to know off a 3K time trial in February.
100%. And I mean, that's, you see that, I mean, you see people doing that in Jacksonville. Like we've seen Kempson come in and he's like, I want to win Jacksonville, or VJ. And they come in way more focused, way more fit than anyone else. But everyone else is still decently fit.
Right.
The positions change a little bit, but the top 45, top 20 are still there.
Yeah. So is there any reason to have prelims and semis every race throughout the year? Or can you use the first race of the year as your prelims and then just have semis and finals everyone? Because you're not going to go from a 19-minute 5K to a 15-minute 5K in 4 months without coming off of surgery or something. Like you could identify it up front. Who are your 45 high flyers? Or probably it's going to be like, who are your 12 high flyers?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
There's also, you can use like a moving system as well. People can go in and out of that 45 and not have these preliminary heats, but they they win whatever the sprint distance, and then they can get kicked up. Like I don't know what their plan is, if they're having any other elite races at all, or if it's just the series, but there are options for people to move in and out of that 45 without having these preliminary heats, which are silly and pointless in my opinion.
I suppose that the argument would be growth, right? Like maybe this could attract more people to come in, and it comes from the 12, and maybe we get 12 more. I find it unlikely, especially in the first year, but I think you're right with the talent pool that we have now. Yeah. Like we don't need 45. We don't need to run heats. There will almost never be like, what do you think the shift of people who qualify from one event to the next is? Is it just gonna be the same exact story every single race?
Yeah. Look at the sprint, super, and beast distance records that we have, like the historical record. How many people get into the top 10 that have never been in there each race? Like maybe one.
Not many.
It's like there's room for people to come in, but I think you set the curve with that first time trial of the year. All right. VJ ran in his 3K time trial. He ran 1958, and the 20th person ran 2140. Well, there's your curve. If you can come in and do a race, like the time trial course is open, come in and do one. If you can run one on Friday before your Saturday event, like you qualify in, kind of like how Sean Roberts had to run his sprint or his super day one in Jacksonville one year to qualify for gated entry on day 2. Like there's a way in, but if this is a time-based course, like you set the curve after one event, you know what's good and what's not.
Are they having it open on Friday to where people can run it?
No,
I don't believe so.
I mean, that would make sense because then yeah. And you could always just leave a few spots open. So like say you have 50 and 5 spots are open for qualifying times.
Yeah.
I think we actually have a pretty solid data point in Ian, just to go back to your point about fitness over the course of the year. Ian, like start of the year, you tended to not care. You'd finish like 15th at a national series race, and then at the end of the
you just wouldn't do well.
I don't want to speak.
I just don't go in early season being
you weren't as fit, and then you get like 5th at Tahoe, and it's like that's a completely different athlete, same person. Everyone else is still training really hard throughout the year, just like you, but you peaked right, so you're gonna have significant swings in performance up throughout the year.
And that's the most extreme example we've ever seen.
Yeah, but I also do that on purpose. Like when you have,
I'm saying you're the outlier. You do it on purpose, and you're not wheelhouse to your wheelhouse, and you went like 15th to 5th, and that's only a 10-point swing, really.
It is, but also like when you look at the money and like the actual races that I would argue that matter a lot more, depending on your goals. But like you get championship season, you don't want to be peaking in June or July, and then you got to like figure stuff out, try not to get injured till like August, September, October, and sometimes December when they put races in the Middle East.
So do we think that they will incentivize athletes to come to these outside of just the prize purse? Like, will they hit up the top 20 athletes in the Bauer ranking system and be like, we'll pay for your flight, come to this event? Like, will we expect that if they really want this thing to jump off? They're going to need to get the athletes like an Ian Hosek, who is a name in the sport, who might not be that pumped about being there, but just get him there. Let's see how it goes. Can we, do you think that that's something that's on the cards?
They would have to do more than pay my flight to get me to go to those races.
I'd go if they paid my flight. And
it depends on where they are. Like if it's at venues, I've like part of my stuff this year is I've raced Spartan races for so long and they're all at the same venues. They're the same races. And now they're just a 3K. Like
the venues will matter way less now because they're probably going to be kind of the same no matter where we go.
If you have it at Big Bear versus like Jacksonville, it's a wildly different course.
Different.
You could
3K loops.
But then Ian could go run the Elite Beast on Saturday afterwards.
Yeah, but that's the question. Is there an elite?
Still an elite race? Yes. We don't know if there's prize money on it.
I thought they said there were like I thought they said there were like 5 or 10 premier elite events throughout the season. I thought that Steve mentioned that in the broadcast.
And then is that just the standard $500? Because even then,
no, I thought that they were going to elevate prize money there. Like
they should only have those and no more prize money at any of the other ones.
Yeah,
just like 10.
They'll just probably make Killington a big one, or
Well, let's do something real quick here, but because we're already over our time.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the top like 15 men you can think of, and say, will they be excited to go try this or not? So Atkins, would Atkins do a 3K? Is he excited? No.
He'll do it.
Would he be really good at it? He'll do it.
Yeah.
Rylan.
He'll do it.
Rylan's pumped about life. Rylan,
Veerman.
He's done it.
Veerman will.
Yes, because that's it. He'll just be like, oh, it's there. I'll go do it.
And he can attack obstacles and he's fast.
He'll be good.
VJ.
Yes.
VJ is going to win like every race.
Excited.
Mars.
Logan Broadbent.
Excited.
Yep. Mark Botras.
Not excited, but I think
excited.
he'll go.
But is he going to go attack a 3K course where he can run?
Yeah.
So like we've had how many no's out of the first 7 people we've gone after?
1, maybe.
I don't think we're actually going to struggle to get people there, especially if there's prize money in series, and if there's some potential like theoretical, this could be a national team qualification that they're going to dangle out there. I don't think. I mean,
national
the
team
people,
for who?
It doesn't mean if it's real or not, but they're going to say not only can you get money and TV time, but there might be a blank waiting. The people like you, Ian, who are mountain purists, I would kind of call it, are actually, even though the races are mountain purist formatted in our sport, you're kind of the outlier. Most people love obstacle transitions and love doing compromise run. Like that's what brought them here. I don't think we're going to have a lot of people like you who are like, I just don't even want to try it. So I don't think they're going to struggle for participation. I think they're going to piss off people that can no longer participate in the races they've done the last decade.
So I would argue I'm not. I mean, mountains are great for sure, but I'm also more of an OCR purist.
Mountain OCR purist, I meant. Sorry.
Okay, Spartan is OCR, but it's also not. It's not like challenging. The obstacles don't really play that big of a role. They'll play a bigger role in a 3K, but they don't like have huge race shifts minus the spear throw. And like maybe a heavy carry, but now that's even less. Like,
are they throwing the spear in this 3K?
There's not a chance.
They're doing the laser pistol, which
that's right, laser pistol.
Ping, ping.
How do you practice those things, Bracken?
One arm by multi-sport rule biathlon. It's one arm once you're over the age of 12, I believe.
Is it one arm really?
How big's the target? It's like a dime.
Small.
It's like a silver dollar.
You get one shot.
Why?
Do we know? You can bring your other arm up to reset it, basically, not reload.
Yeah, it's here. Reload it, shoot. Reload it, shoot. You cannot go 2-arm. I think past the age of 12 in at least modern pentathlon.
Why?
And I think biathlon.
Why can't you do 2-arm? If I'm going to shoot something, I'm definitely going to use 2 hands.
But you're not going to use a laser.
But lasers are different.
How do you know?
Lasers have no recoil.
I'm aware of that. I've got a 45 sitting over there, but like,
but it's not a laser.
It's not a laser, but like
laser.
I'm just curious, who's like I know lasers have come in and the military is a big thing with Spartan, but whose idea was like, all right, we just need to add a laser pistol?
You know whose idea it was.
But why is that a thing? Why did it come from that? And like, it just doesn't make sense for this sport whatsoever.
Synergy.
Modern pentathlon already exists. OCR already exists. I don't think we need an unholy amalgamation of both of them, amalgamum of both. I don't think we need that. But someone seems to think that the Olympic path runs directly down the sights of a laser.
I mean, if there were sharks with laser beams attached to their heads, I'd be all in.
Pretty freaking cool.
If you had to ride a shark and then hit a target, let's do it.
So where all four of you, first person to answer wins. Rich and Jack probably will win. Where can you personally practice a laser pistol?
Right down the street from me.
Matt Kempson's house.
Right down the street from Jack.
Yeah. Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. Matt Kempson's house. What does the Midwest offer? What's the East Coast laser pistol facility? It's more of a crapshoot than the spear because at least the spear you can practice.
Is it hard? Is it hard to
battery? It's really hard. It's really hard.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's a skill.
They had 1,000
meter.
meter
A gun one-handed. It's very challenging.
Yeah.
It's not a heavy pistol, but it's hard to just hold your hand straight when you're at VO2 max.
Oh, or just even holding your arm out for a while and then like have it not wiggle. Like try
Even
that right now.
If we were to stick our arms out right now, you're going to have some wiggle after like 10, 15 seconds. And we're at like 60 beats a minute, if that.
Yeah. You might.
So I'm getting like 1 to 2 centimeters of sway on like that's like the big end ranges. And I have very steady hands. And then you're doing that after like jacked up heart rate on a sandbag carry.
Yeah. I would even argue that the lightness of the gun is a detriment to holding it steady because some heft to a gun adds the lack of your arm quivering. It's not magnified as much through the pistol if it's a heavier piece.
Yeah. Got one more question. I know you wanted to move on, Rich, but since we talked about the formats and let's just assume it's that 2-minute gap, which I swear I heard between the 3 heats. How long would an event like this, if they have potential streaming deals or whatever, how long is this going to take? So they said an 11-minute cap. You have 3 rounds. So realistically, that's 15 minutes of round 1, right? At that point, 11 plus 2 plus 2, that would be 15 minutes. And then round 2 would be 11 plus 2 because there are only 2 heats. So now you're looking at 13 minutes. So you're up to 28 minutes total. How long do you think a 3K final is going to take? 20 to 25 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
30. We'll just cap it at 30.
Okay. So let's call it 30 plus 20. So you've got almost an hour of actual action. Do you think that, and then commercial breaks or whatever in between, they probably wouldn't, this would be a post-production, I'm guessing, instead of having long breaks between the heats. But if they were to actually have something going on where it's like a condensed version of it, they wouldn't show the full races is what I'm getting at. That's my guess. Unless they have a 90-minute broadcast, because I don't think you could.
We also double it for women. I'm assuming we're not having.
Oh, I'm saying separate like weeks. Like here's the women's coverage first. Next week we'll show you the men's or something. If they were to do that, but yeah,
I don't think we'll see live streaming.
They shouldn't.
Then why would they do the 2-minute? Then why would they do the 2-minute?
Yeah.
Like, because they'd want to, because something that they seem sensitive about is how long these streams are for whatever reason. They're like, oh, the engagement after X amount of time like falls. Like, well, just make the product good, and then people will watch.
The analytics are bad.
Yeah, like the product might suck, but if they're just doing the 2-minute thing and they want to keep it in this like 60 to 90-minute window, like why would that even be a thing? Why would they just?
Is there even 90-minute sports programming? That's a weird time.
I watched baseball for like fucking 4.5 hours the other day.
Yeah. Did I watch the Mariners game or listen to it? I almost lost my mind.
No.
All right. Also, what was the duration of the battle bunker time for the course? The short course. It's only a quarter mile at the end. How long did that take?
4.5 minutes.
8 minute. No.
Oh,
no.
I thought VJ
for what?
was like
Are you talking about the obstacle course?
Yeah, it was an 8-minute cap. I think only
8-minute cap.
Two women got under it.
4
and how many men?
Under.
I think 50%
like
of the men got under.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of men either.
What that means is that in a 1,000-meter short course with a double carry, someone is going to make up a 2-minute time gap.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Why would you allow that to happen?
But well, I mean, this is why you shouldn't have preliminary heats.
Yeah, this many. I just don't think the athletes are going to be good enough for like 45.
Yeah, if you have 45, people are going to get gobbled up.
Yeah, going to be some.
And then you're also going to get. I mean, I don't know what the lanes will look like for the obstacles, but some of them I imagine won't have more than 3 or 4 people. I don't know what the heats are looking like numbers wise, but you're going to have
15 to start.
Yeah, 15 people on a like monkey bars or a rig, like, or a cargo net. Someone's going to get knocked out.
That's also why the 6 minute, the 1K prelims don't make sense, like, because there probably will be bottlenecks, and there's going to be a bunch of jabronis sprinting to this monkey bars who can't do a 20-minute race.
Right.
Or like
Jack,
the
we
laser
saw
pistol.
In OCR Warrior on like a 60-second course, we saw people lose by 45 seconds.
I don't know anyone who did that.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying we saw some people do that.
There is tape.
I was like, Bracken beat me by about 40.
We could get the clock out.
So now extrapolate that over 8 minutes. It's going to be a mess. So I think the best thing they could do is actually hold their first event as a trial, like down in Jacksonville or something. Do a trial of this and sort it all out, because we can talk until we're blue in the face about it, or we could just let them learn the things that everyone who ran track throughout their life already knows. And look who spoke up: Ian, myself, Jack, Rich, Kirk. We had Nicole, Faye, Jess. All the people who ran track understand the way heats should work and how they shouldn't. So I think they just need to learn on the fly. Let them go experience just an absolute cluster of an event early, let's say down in Jacksonville, and then refine the process and decide, is this what we want to do for a series?
But what about...
do we want to do that, Bracken? Because like we've been letting them do that for years, and this is where we are.
It is, but this is the first time they've ever had a categorical shift in their offering and made it the new series without testing it. This is like the biggest leap Spartan's ever done, and they haven't tested it.
I agree with Bracken. I think that you should honestly, if you're going to do this on Friday, don't limit it to 45. Get hundreds of people to try this out. Get a bigger data set instead of just the top end athletes who show up. Let's see how age groupers do, whatever. Just figure out what the spread is. Have a couple of timing matches just to figure out how people do in certain parts of the course and stuff. And then you'll know, like, next time around, okay, we're still going to stick with 45, but do we need to space them out a little bit more? Do we need to change the obstacle layout, make it a little more spread out, a little more dense, eliminate this type of carrot? Like, I think that more trial, the better in the first one.
Yeah. You got to get a dry run. You got it.
I still think it's going to be super exciting once it happens. Like, there's no denying that the event itself is going to be fantastic. It's just we want it to be perfect the first time around. So,
there is denying.
First official time.
The only reason I don't think I would go to an early one is just because I don't like being extremely frustrated at things that I can't control in an athletic event. And I feel like this is going to be very frustrating from an athlete perspective, at least until they figure this out. And if they just, Spartan will change things on the fly. So they might change the rules on the first freaking go at this. So maybe they fix it, but they'll definitely make changes along the way, because what they're not good at is using their foresight to see what kind of issues might happen and addressing them before they have to do it on the fly.
We all know they're going to have to make adjustments. So I would really hope that they make the adjustment before the season starts. Because once the series starts, they're screwed. They can't make accurate adjustments without invalidating any previous results that have already earned points and points towards future money. So you've got to get your rough attempts out of the way. You can't invent a sport and not test it and say we start on Monday.
Dave Watson said that they're going to have a trial event. Dave Watson said they're going to have a trial event in Mexico in December. He said that on Mass Podcast. So
good.
I think they will work out some of the kinks just to see how it goes. So I there's hope. And I think that if anything, normally we're all like, how do we fix the high rocks sleds? What should we do about it? Like, we've had how many episodes like that? 3 or 4, Rich. This hasn't happened yet. Like, I feel like we're given some pretty dang good constructive criticism, not just us, but like other people chiming in. They've got all the feedback that people are concerned about. So you've got, 4 months or so until a likely event. Who knows? It might be 4 or 5 months. And then they can hopefully fix it.
Accepting feedback is not necessarily their thing.
I know, but
if you're going to list out the skill sets on LinkedIn of Dave Watson, I don't know if accepting feedback would even be like if he's capable of typing those words, those letters in consecutive order. I just don't. He has some skills. He's undeniably good at certain things, but enacting user feedback, certainly not one of them.
So
we'll certainly see.
We're just going to have to see. That's the only thing we can do is see.
Nice 10-minute cap, Rich.
All right. We did it. We're right under 10 minutes. Let's move on. Bracken mentioned Battle Bunker. And that was a pretty fun event. I know Ian watched some, Jack watched some, Bracken, you were watching it a little bit. The coverage was like,
don't say a little bit.
Did you watch it all?
Come on, man.
I know you did.
I was even commenting.
Watched it twice at this point. I popped on the broadcast for the first women's event. Ian closed it down. He was the anchor for the last women's event. So we were in there. We were participating, and the coverage was like pretty good. But this is like an interesting kind of thing that I was looking at with these like pop-up events is kind of what I'm calling them. And we saw this last year with Hildervat, and this year we've seen it in more of the hybrid space. And I want to kind of talk about what that means with like a Battle Bunker or a Go Ruck Games kind of popping up and putting out money. And like, is that something that we can like project to where the demand is going to go down the road? But Bracken, I'm sure you've done a bunch of these pop-up events. These are something that are pretty consistently inconsistent in OCR, right? Like there'll be an event like, hey, come here and we have $10,000 to spend. So do you have any good stories? What's like the best one you've done?
I mean, the best one, honestly, was the Spartan Combine. It was a bit of a mess, and it was spectacular. Everyone loved it. The most random one was the Ultimate Athlete Games put on by Men's Fitness. It came up out of nowhere. No one knew about it. And then it disappeared just as quickly. But yeah, these multi-event all day long competitions, we saw it with Go Ruck Games, and we've seen it with a few others. Everyone who goes there has a blast and is destroyed, and it uncovers whatever your weaknesses are. Mm-hmm. That multi-event format, you can't hide from. Everyone leaves with something to work on.
What are the point of these events? Because they just seem like they come and they go. There's not like, has there been a pop-up event that now is a mainstay in our season?
No.
I think the point would be for like marketing for the different brands. Like Go Ruck, we're now saying Go Ruck a lot. And Battle Bunker, we're now saying Battle Bunker a lot, which are actually like brands. So just having that in the name, they get more recognition, and then people will go look at their products. I was looking, like, even just with the Battle Bunker, I was like, this would be a really good place to have like an OCR clinic or like any number of things at that facility, because I had never really knew about that facility until I saw it. And now that they have a permanent obstacle course that's pretty good, it'd be a great place to train or have different style of events for whatever you want. I personally think for the Battle Bunker place, they should do relay heats like Battle Frog did back in the day on that course, and they would get amazing coverage and the times would be wicked fast, and you could get some really, really cool media exposure for OCR in general.
Is it because their name starts with battle?
It's the only reason.
Yeah.
The coverage was good. This was probably some of the better coverage. A bit of a snafu in that first event when we were watching it. There was
Ruck was a little rough, but
I mean, it started too early. It started at 6:30, and it's just like dark then. It's too early to start something to cover. And there was like a sideline reporter that might not have been as like super engaged in what was actually happening, but just had like specific hits that she wanted to touch on, and they cut to her during the final kick and like the last 800 meters and that thing. But outside of that, like the camera itself was really good, and like just being able to kind of zoom out and see everybody in one spot, I thought the coverage was actually excellent.
For first time coverage, I think it was good. Definitely room for improvement. Just the back end team definitely needed some better management. That like we would be like interviews happening, and then we would all stop talking, and then there'd be a 30-second pause where no one's talking. They're staring at something, and then they switch to the interviewer who's not ready yet. We're like looking down, and then she gets the cue and starts talking. And meanwhile, you just have this giant gap. And having watched and then come on as a commentator, I was like, I understand where this is happening, but this is the internet. It should be faster than 30 seconds to communicate between these parties.
As someone who's been on multiple streams, luckily I've been a part of several different companies trying to put on live streams. I now understand that your first one is a freebie. Like with OCR Report, we missed the start of the men's race in Utah. Our coverage came in when they were already 5 minutes up the mountain.
The race was over by then too.
Yeah. And so I watched the back end stuff happen enough to realize that, yeah, it sucks that your flagship promotion didn't look great at all times, but they at least had the pieces there. They had the money they've spent on sideline reporters and microphones and back end people. That's important. They had multiple cameras. They had drones. They had all the pieces in place. So while it wasn't a polished product yet, it did get better throughout the day in some aspects. And you can tell they're going to be good, where you can't say that about every production we've been a part over that we've watched. You look at it and think, these people don't have the money. They don't have the budget. They don't have the talent. They don't have the equipment. These people at least are going to be able to do it. So I agree with you, Ian. Some of the things were maddening to watch, but they at least have, like, you look at this person, be like, all right, that's a 4-star player right there. Hey, we can turn into a 5-star. They at least have the tools.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they should have taken some of their drone shots, or if you look at what CrossFit does, they had FUBAR set up to where you could have that vertical view, and they didn't take advantage of that. They had the stations set up for cleans and squats being different. And then if you had that aerial view and just almost just set it there and had the commentators and then brought down to those close shots instead of reversing it. But again, first time around, they did great. They had an aerial view, which is much more than like a lot of these other places we're seeing.
And one thing that kind of took me off, caught me off guard a little bit, was I was expecting the camera to be moving around and like just being someone with a phone, like, because we're so used to watching that for Spartan stuff. And I was like, oh, they don't really have anybody out there like running around with the people. They have a couple big static cameras. And I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. And I think it's probably what Spartan Cross is going to be able to do as well, is be able to have something that can see a bigger picture and see more people. It's still hard. Jack, I think you mentioned this last time, like what CrossFit does. It's like you still can't see more than one person, the person who's winning, but it's clear. And I think that's helpful. A lot of times it's not shaking. It just looks better. And they did have
down the row, but that's about the only way that you can get multiple.
Have you guys, I don't know if any of you have ever watched UCI mountain biking races. I know Atkins and Lindsay have, but their coverage, they have a multi-lap format, and they have a short course and a long course, short course being what's going to be similar to Spartan Cross or these 3K events. And they're capped at around 20 minutes, but they have 5 or 6 static cameras throughout the course, and they'll just bounce between them. And it's phenomenal. You can track who's going on as long as the announcers are like tracking as well, but it's pretty easy because you can recognize the individuals because the image is clear, which is, we see that's like the main problem you'll see in these OCR coverage events is like, oh, it's a grainy image that just froze for 15 seconds. I mean, I was watching Kelowna, and on the top of the mountain, like Jack would be talking, or there would just be a grainy image that no one can see what's going on. And the announcer's like, I think that was someone. They were in black shorts, and then they ran by.
And Kelowna was a good one. That coverage was that was like very clear coverage.
I don't think there are like 4 people in the sport who, if you just had Bigfoot blurry vision, you know, that style of video, that we couldn't identify who an athlete is. So if we're struggling, you know that the
exactly. And I mean, all of us have been in running long enough to know like what each person's gait looks like. Like I can tell what Rylan looks like compared to Mark just by looking at them from 100 yards away.
So what do we make of these events now being more hybrid focused? Because this one and GoRuck, I think the athletes who did, for GoRuck in particular, the athletes who did really well in that were more in the Hyrox and Deca Fit like competitive space now. But this event was still, even though there was an obstacle course, it still seemed like more of a hybrid event, right? That first one, the first 2 events were very much just like output, how you're doing on the machines, how well your movement patterns are. Nothing that really has much to do with obstacle racing in general. Like, is this something that is going to be more appealing to the masses? Like, can we project out if hybrid is going to continue to grow because of these pop-up events, or is it just so happens that there was this group that wanted to put on an event and it's just random?
I think. Go ahead, Bragan.
I was just gonna say that I don't think that this is supposed to appeal to the masses in a participation sense. I wouldn't imagine you're supposed to watch this and say, I can't wait to go try it. I think you're supposed to watch it and go look at their other YouTube offerings.
But you would think that the people that would go check out what they have, because they do have like some training programs and they have some other like events that are, you would think that they would have a similar interest in what the event was, and they'll be like, oh, that looks cool, let me go look and see what the rest of this is about.
But they're not cross promoting it. Like, how do you know hybrid even exists based on watching this one event? Like, did they mention High Rocks or Decafit? Like, you don't really know.
No. That's not. I'm not saying that it was
search term,
but it's similar in terms of like demands.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, how would you know to find an event? Like what would you even type into Google to? Would just be like, oh, type in Deca or High Rocks. But like, if you don't know that exists, and it's not promoted on their website that stuff like that exists, it's kind of hard to cross-pollinate.
Have you heard of Data? It's probably pretty easy if someone goes to Battle Bunker, then High Rock's like, gotcha.
Ian, I want to hear your take, but the last thing I want to say about it is that I don't know. Other races in the past, the pop-ups have said, we're testing to find the best blank.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find the best all-around blank. I didn't hear a statement about this one, and you could kind of see it reflected in the programming. Like, event 1 was hybrid through and through. Event 2 was a CrossFit Games competition through and through. And then event 3 was short course OCR. I don't think it was attempting to find the best of anything. It was trying to take all 3 styles of people outside their comfort zones and really find whose floor is the highest at their bad section, not necessarily who's the ceiling's highest across the board. So I don't know what its identity was, which makes me think it just feeds back into its own YouTube ecosystem. That's my take.
I would agree with that. I think it's more of a marketing tool than and it's getting people motivated, but not to do these events. So they'll go out and they'll want to get coached to be able to do these sandbag workout, or they'll want to be able to do the ruck into the row, into the run, or they get really excited by OCR and go into the OCR. I think it's sending people certain directions. I don't think it's sending them to one specific place. Also, if you look at who put it on, we have Hunter, who's promoting his own brand. And then we have Austin, who's also got Battle Bunker. So those guys are looking to grow their own ecosystem. Hunter's been marketing heavily after this, like, hey, come do my training programs. I don't get Austin's ads, but I'm assuming like they're the same thing. He's got a relatively big YouTube following. I think it's like 175. So people will go back, they'll see this, and then they'll go back. And depending on, I think, how well it does in the YouTube space, or just the media space in general, we may see it come again, or we may see them do something entirely different, or pieces will be pulled. Maybe they'll try and just go hybrid overall, and then make people do the obstacle course with a weight vest on. I don't know. It's also tricky because when we ask who's this portraying to, we don't know the scoring system. We have like this amorphous blob that we got later in the day. And apparently the 800 was like had triple points or something. And then I'm sure you guys saw the rowers weren't necessarily catching. So some people weren't like getting their full distances. And then the women, they were yelling like, only do 1,000. And then talking to some of the women who were there were like, we didn't hear that. Or like,
they didn't,
no one had any clue what was going on that front. So I think without a clear scoring system, it's going to be hard to say what this event was geared towards, because maybe the 800 was the thing that decided the entire event, or the obstacle course, or whatever.
Yeah. And I guess I wasn't necessarily asking like, where will the people go who did this then be dumped into? It's just like, is it an emerging trend that this style of training and competing is going to overtake the people that might want to compete and train for something like OCR, now that we're seeing more hybrid pop-up fitness events? Not necessarily like, oh, okay, this is good for High Rocks, this is good for Decafit. Is this just generally like showing where there might be interest going down the road? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Maybe.
I don't think it'll ever really approach like the big events, or like the giants in their own industries, like Deca or High Rocks, or like Spartan or Savage or CrossFit and CrossFit. But it does give other outlets for those athletes. to go like have fun doing things. But I think you'll get a mix of athletes completely specializing still and going to these events. But I don't think they're going to shift their entire training program to go compete well at Battle Bunker.
Yeah, and I just looked up, Rich, to kind of follow up your earlier point. I just typed in competitions like Battle Bunker, a few just basic things like that. I went to page 10 on Google for each of those. Couldn't find anything that related to like try High Rocks, try DECA. Here are other events like this. So
we are not talking about the same thing, Jack. Whatever you are interpreting the thing that I'm saying, you are you are so off that.
Like, I thought you said where are people going to go. So I was like,
no,
where are they going to go means what else are they going to try?
It's just like what kind of style of training that they like, and is it a more appealing? Not necessarily like, oh, okay, like High Rocks is here, like they're like. Anyway,
I thought you were saying how are they going to find other events like this? That's what I thought the point was, but I misinterpreted, I guess.
With these style of events, these pop-up events, they generally attract the people who want something more out of existing events. So like you have the people who showed up to the first couple Spartan games and they're like, I'm glad that strength is going to matter more here. And I'm glad that obstacles are going to matter more. And then you go up to that Savage produced GoRuck games, and people are like, I'm so glad that running under weight matters here. Like the rucking community is super intense. They're either military based or the people that don't think that running alone should be the test of fitness. It should be, can you move under load? So I'm so glad this will matter. And you hear about all these other things. And I think that these pop-ups speak to those fringe groups that really want to dive down the rabbit hole of what their interest or skill set is. So I'm glad it's not just pure running, or you always hear that same phrase. I'm glad blank will finally matter. But those aren't the people that drive industries. Those are the people that drive gyms or drive boutique plans or things like that. So it's almost like CrossFit. It's like a CrossFit competition for people who don't want to have to learn barbells. That's kind of what this looks like. People that want to try a whole bunch of different things and maybe the one thing that they specialize in, but they don't want huge technical skill pieces. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah. Pretty consistent.
Yeah. I kind of think that's what High Rocks and DecaFit is. I think High Rocks is just
non-technical
CrossFit with people with bad thoracic mobility. That's basically what it is.
But even that is specified and it's still a running competition. And
sure.
You know what it is. With these, it's like the pop-ups draw the fringe enthusiasts, but there is no way to specialize in. Like, how would you specialize in GoRuck? Because next year it might be 100% different, the competition. How do you specialize in Battle Bunker if next year maybe the only thing that's still there is the O course? It's a lifestyle more than it is a training plan.
Totally.
And I would piggyback off. You still see the same athletes winning these events.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's not like the fringe people are like the best rucker in the world is coming and be like, oh yeah, I won Battle Bunker. No, Isaiah won and Kent got second.
GoRuck Games, it was 8 High Rocks athletes, at the top.
So what do we learn from all these things? GoRuck Games, Battle Bunker, Spartan Games, Ultimate Athlete. They're all won by OCR athletes. So like what if people keep trying to test, they keep getting the result that tells them the correct answer. It's just not the answer they're trying to test for.
Yeah.
But I think what it keeps proving is that the most well-rounded form of physical fitness is hybrid or OCR style that does not skimp on strength training or endurance. And that's not the answer anyone wants to hear. They want to hear that my way, kettlebells are the best, rucking is the best, cycling is the best, CrossFit's the best. No, the answer is that the well-rounded athlete with a huge aerobic engine wins everything.
The fitness component is still always what's going to be the top. It's like, oh, let's see if we put a sandbag and a ruck on them, what happens? It's like, okay, you're just going to be slower than you already are.
Yeah, it'll continually disappoint people who want a specialist to come in and win.
Yeah.
They keep saying, what does it really say about your competition that the OCR people keep winning? At some point, it's not the faulty test anymore. This is just the answer.
Yeah. I mean, to really go tangential, it's not the people who were the biggest, like looking at persistence hunting back in the day. It's the people who could run the farthest and the fastest. Obviously, they had to be strong to carry the meat back, but it wasn't the guy who could go pick up the deer with one arm that was killing the deer. Is the guy who ran around and then brought the meat back because they were also running under load. So
I was waiting for there to be a final event at this, because 3 events I don't think is enough on with the scoring pieces. Like it's just,
wasn't it like 3A, 3B, 3? You know,
I don't even think it was like there was supposed to be that way, but maybe the final event, Ian, should have been, all right, go hunt a deer now. It's just how Go
Yeah.
Ruck was like, all right, now fight. Now who wins? Whoever can eat. You can't eat, you die, you lose.
yeah, you
That's
got
how-
You know what my
24
take on
hours
that is?
to get a deer without
Yeah.
using firearms.
Kirk could be so good.
Laser pistols. You have to kill
My
them with
take
laser
on these final wildcard events is that these are events grasping at straws to try to eliminate the endurance athlete.
Yes.
Because the answer to everything being the greatest aerobic capacity wins is not sexy, and no one wants to look like what that visual is. You want to hear that.
I think we look pretty darn good.
Well, we're not the
physically.
stereotype, right? Hunter is what people want to look like. The masses want to look like him or Kent, but they don't want to accept that he or Kent are faster than the runners. You know, it's like the archetype's a little off, but these random events are the things that people come up with to try to throw basically the OCR endurance athlete off the scent, and it's not working.
Yeah. And I mean, a hunter is, everyone may think Hunter is like a strong guy. Hunter's an endurance athlete who's really big. He's not a strong guy who's really fast.
No.
Yeah.
So you got a question on, you kind of alluded to it earlier, with the scoring system. Do you think when $10,000 per gender is on the line, like you need to be pretty transparent on what you're getting yourself into, and for scoring, like just for, accountability at that point?
I'm still shocked we don't know how it was scored.
Yeah.
Like we don't even know like how every athlete placed.
We don't even know if it was accurate.
I mean,
I think it was-
I'm fairly certain it wasn't accurate based on like the events and talking to some of my athletes there and where they finished. They were in certain places after event 2 and then where they placed after event 3. It is illogical and very improbable that certain scenarios happened in this exact specific way, which we know actually didn't happen, for them to like get that final positioning.
I think they just took the finishing place, and just added them up in the lowest score one of all 3 events.
CrossFit
So,
style
like,
or CrossFit
it's
open
not,
style?
No, but
I
they
think it
told
was.
people the 800 had bonus points.
I know they did. I know they told people that, but I don't think that's what they did.
Okay,
how could have Isaiah
We're all
won?
in agreement. That's another great question. By 1 point, apparently.
But if you add up their finishes, I think he was a 1. Or no, he got like 5th, 2nd, and like 5th or something like that. And Kent got like, I can find it exactly.
Kent was 3 in the first one, right?
Kent was 3, 1, and then 7. So I may have not
That's
said
12
what Isaiah had.
Or 11.
So Isaiah was 5th, 2nd, and 3rd. He got 3rd in the obstacle course.
Okay.
Which
So
that
then-
itself is mind blowing,
That's pretty good.
right?
Really solid.
I saw
He's
him
done a lot of OCR.
Yeah, when VJ and he took off, I'm like, this is just him doing the same exact thing. He's just going to go out way too hard, and then he's
Too
just
short of
gonna
a
blow up.
course. He can't blow up.
And
Okay, so there
Kent,
has to be open scoring.
so then Kent got,
Has
just
to.
real quick, 3rd, 1st, and 7th, which is 11.
11
So it was
versus
10, 11.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
got to be
think-
that way.
And then I don't understand how Jared plays in. I thought they had the top 2 seeds, right? Where the people who were last to start on the obstacle course. Jared was the 1st or 2nd seed, beat Kent, finished 3rd. Like I don't quite,
Doesn't make sense.
doesn't make sense.
I don't think until they give me the Excel sheet with everything laid out, and like we just have to take their word for it. But they're also handing out cash prizes. If I'm an athlete there, I'm going to be getting in Hunter's face or Austin's face or whoever's in charge of scoring and be like, bring me to the computer. Let's walk through my finish.
Well, here's the issue, Ian, is that when the military is involved, GoRuck, this type of thing, people who are either active or former military, we all bring our bias to how we want the competition to be run. With a military bias is confusion and keeping people in the dark in order to find out how you react to uncertain circumstances. And their belief, and they talked about it on GoRuck, and they've done this, the selection style thing is if you never know where you stand, you have to put out on everything. That's their go-to mentality. And it's a very good mentality for selecting who you want to defend your country out on the battlefield. But it's not a good mentality for who gets $10,000 at the end of this.
We're not asking
we run
in
into
the middle of the event. We're asking at the end, just to reveal what took place.
Right. And so we have the case of, we were told scoring systems. Hunter was very clear and offline with me on phone calls. He said, we're incentivizing the 800 so you can just bury it and make up time and you get bonus points. We also know that couldn't have been true, because if it would have, Isaiah would have lost, because he would have got no bonus points on the 800, and Kent and Jared would have had bonus points for being 2 of the 4 or 5 fastest 800-meter runs at the finish. So we know that wasn't even true. So when there's money on the line, the only system is open scoring. You have to announce at the end of each event where everyone stands so that you get the arguments out of the way before the next starts. Because when it's not cut and dry scoring, there will be arguments. Like, Ian, you would be going to them saying, show me the computer. You have to have that built in. Otherwise, it invalidates everything, because we're not trying to have a selection here. We're trying to have an athletic competition. It's where the military and the athletic crossover has to halt.
This is why I would never join the military. I've always known I would be a terrible person, unless you put me in a leadership role. But I'm good.
I would like to volunteer
orders.
for leadership, please.
If you can explain what's going on in like a logical fashion that makes sense, hell, I'll go run at bullets. But if you just say go run at bullets because I told you so, I'd be like, this doesn't seem great. Or like if you tell me go run, here's the first triple R event. There's an 800 meter at the end of it, and the event's 20 minutes long, or however long it was. I'll be like, cool, the 800 meter doesn't matter whatsoever. I'm going to go hard on a 2-mile ruck and do a 2K row, and then just like hang on.
Finish where I finish. Right.
Yeah. Because it's so small. And
so it does change your approach. If you think that 800, it probably didn't, but it could change your approach. If you're like, all right, I'm just going to hammer this 800, chill on this 2K and get some bonus points. They changed FUBAR too. FUBAR was supposed just to be 4 rounds
done with the cleans. And yeah.
You were supposed to be like, and Isaiah would have won, and then
by a lot,
but then they doubled the length of the event.
Make it run.
You know, it's like, all right, well, now instead of 4 minutes, it's 8 minutes.
And that's what you want to find out a soldier who's not going to crap his pants on the battlefield if he overexerts early and then is stuck with his pants down. And he's like, oh, I give up, or I can't compete. You need someone who can go and go and go. But that's not what you're testing here. So I don't think there's any place for that here. It's great in its lane.
I know.
What you're saying is we should have Isaiah join the military.
I think he's an ideal soldier.
Yeah. I don't understand how.
What could you do to that man?
I don't know. That's true.
Like how it always boils down to how will things go in war with these competitions. It's like, what about just like a fitness thing? Like that's not how like regular sports work. You know, like it's not.
CrossFit has it sometimes. Like they did the 10K.
They have done that.
Where it was 5K, you cross the finish line, and then Dave's out there. He's like, no, you're halfway done. Run it again.
Who's military?
That's a terrible thing to do at a world championship.
They've done a couple other events where it's like the judge will tell you when you're done with the amount of reps that you need on this movement. And it's like,
chaos, I think they called that one. That was actually kind of cool.
It's cool, but it's still
stupid.
Yeah.
But there's at least a purpose there, which is to test work capacity. If everyone has to scale back slightly, you're still getting the same people. If you all run a 5K time trial and finish and have to do another one, the order's not going to shift a ton because capacity is going to win out. Like those at least have a purpose for the test, and they already know how it's going to be scored. They're not partway through being like, you know what, we should change the test because I just had a better idea. that can't factor into it. I mean, Hunter's my boy and everything, but I mean, as far as a race director goes, dispassionate has to be the way to approach it.
And we could chalk this up again to being the first time going through something like this. Unforeseen. It's like if they really wanted to weight the 800 further than the rest of the event, they would have had to have timing mats. And they probably got there. It's like, how are we going to know? It's like, we're going to put 50 stopwatches out there for each individual person. It's like, no. Then they probably just didn't have that ability at the time. Like, all right, we can't do this now. Or because the way the lanes were set up, like you had to finish at your rower, not cross a line. You know, they're logistically, it just probably wasn't thought all the way through.
Is that my smoke detector?
Who is it?
Nope.
It's Rich. All right.
It's Rich's.
Oh, my ear. Rich is doing a fire drill.
I'm the
turns out.
captain now. I'm the captain now.
Yeah.
So here's the one thing, and this isn't me being negative about military at all, but that when these cadre, when they deal with groups of people and they're having to get them to complete tasks, they're dealing with a wide cross section of humanity, and they have to finagle and finesse everything out of people.
Oh, Rich is
He's evacuating. He
Evacuating
grabbed
the
his
dog
dog
out
and
of
he's
it.
getting out.
This
When
is
you're
what
dealing
supposed
with-
to do in an evacuation. You're not supposed to grab your laptop. You're just supposed to go take one thing that's
The dog
important.
is better
So
than the laptop.
Carl
he's-
Carl gets priority.
I think Carl's being hid from the noise.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Anyway, but when you get a competitive group of athletes, many of whom consider themselves pro or semi-pro, you're not dealing with the normal cross-section of humanity anymore. You're not dealing with people who need external motivation. The concept of, well, in order to get them to sell out on each event, we have to keep them in the dark so that they think they have a chance. First of all, these athletes are all smart enough to do basic math. I took 28th in event 1. I'm probably out of it. Or I took 4th. I can't be doing too poorly. They can do that. But the second thing is that the leaderboard is the most powerful motivator, not indecision, not confusion, not being kept in the dark. In terms of selling out athletically, having something to actually stare at has been time and time again proved to be more powerful of a motivator than fear or joy or unknown. Any
Or someone
run
just
till
yelling
the
at you.
yeah, any run to failure in a lab test ever, the most distance anyone ever gets is when they're shown a previous result of someone, even if it's fake, and they have to fight for it. The unknown never motivates people as much as the known does. And so I think that's where the military mentality here misses the mark, is they're really selling the athlete short by thinking they're not capable of doing it on their own, or that having a motivating factor is a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that at the event itself with just the people on the sidelines cheering them like, "Don't stop!" Like, you have the military personnel yelling at these very high level athletes. Not one of them is going to stop. I don't think anyone in FUBAR was like, "Oh God, this is really heavy. I'm stopping now."
Did you hear that? Like, drill sergeant, that guy was.
That's what I'm
heated.
talking about. Is like, he was right next to the
Yeah.
mic and screaming about people running, and it's like,
gonna
Isaiah's
go.
putting his heart and soul on the field. Kent is about to poop his pants because he's running so hard. These
Yeah.
guys don't need you yelling at them to like work hard. They just want to know where they are at in the event in terms of points, so they can actually maximize their fitness. And maybe, yes, they might sell out on one event that's their strength versus the other event, but they have no problem motivation. Also,
Yeah.
you're going to pay them $10,000. That's a pretty good motivator.
Yeah.
There have been people there that have nearly come to blows during or after a race for a $500 prize purse. You don't have to worry about motivation with these people, and you don't have to think that they can't do simple mathematics in their head under duress. They know roughly where they stand,
Yeah.
and it's really just doing the competition a disservice and the audience. Like, you need to build a storyline. There's the storyline in a selection or in one of those 48-hour trial by fire type military adventures. The storyline is the process, but the storyline in these competitions is the competition. Knowing that someone needs 4 points made up here or they can't make the podium, that is the storyline. And you're missing half of the story by refusing to acknowledge that a scoreboard exists.
Yeah. It's also,
Or in this
really,
case, maybe not having a scoreboard.
I mean, they wrote something down somewhere, and
Mhm.
it was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Even if the scoreboard, they just made it up. But like, also, it was a really big letdown. Like, watching the event, being invested all day, it was a cool event. They did, like, I thought all 3 events were really fun to watch, and we saw
Mhm.
different athletes showcasing their abilities. And at the end, you're like, all right, who won? They barely even put out on social media who won. I think
Yeah.
later they had one post or a story. Here's our top 3. Or I think they did top 10 for men and women. We don't know points. We don't know, like, it's just kind of a mystery. We can't do a deep dive into the actual event itself. And for
Yeah.
those looking to improve, they have no idea what to improve on. I mean, yes, they have, I finished not very well in this event, or FUBAR took my soul, but they don't see how many points that was. Like, if this is going to happen again, they don't know if they should invest time into being really good at sandbag cleans and squats. And
Yeah.
then
What's
really running
your
with it.
cost benefit at that point of a certain movement if you're gonna have the event again?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the
I mean,
first
I
thing
felt let down.
It's the first thing that happens after every major or minor sports program that ends? They kick right to the desk, and people start breaking down right into who won, how did they win, why did it happen, how did it go down, what could have happened, the post-fight analysis, the post-game breakdown. It happens in every sport. And in these pop-up events, I'm not talking in the last like 20 minutes I've been talking here, I'm not talking even specifically about Battle Bunker anymore, just these in general, that idea of how this is run. These events miss out on that opportunity. And it started with the podium ceremony, which didn't announce how much you won by, didn't announce your total points, didn't announce what you placed in each three. I mean, that's kind of standard. If you look at other events, let's say gymnastics, that has multiple competitions throughout the day, and then has a winner at the end with the all-around score. At all these competitions, and we are a gymnastics family, so I've watched this hundreds of times. It's with a third place on vault with a 985 and a 7, and then your total all-around score is it, and then they announce. Like even that quick little recap there gets everyone hyped up about what just happened.
Is gymnastics the best example because of how arbitrary scoring is?
Well, they have points. We'll just.
I know that, but like it's still up to the judges to decide. Like, did you?
It's an example of multi-skill separated competitions with points that are debatable, and you have challenges afterwards, and people go up to the judges and say, hey, you ruled this a level D move, but it's really an E skill. And so they can go back through and change, and then they flash the score, and you have your time, or they flash first, and then afterwards you have basically your arbitration window of time where you can go and try to legislate for yourself. So it's a comparison. I don't know if it's a great one, but at least there's precedent elsewhere.
Regardless, though, you can have I could build out an Excel spreadsheet, and all you got to do is tell me what time they finished in and input it as the obstacle course happens, which takes zero effort. And then you can have results immediately at the end of the obstacle course race. We were talking to
pivot table and it'll auto refresh.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not hard. This is not challenging stuff. But at the very end of the broadcast, they were like, we interviewed Chris, and we're like, hey, so what do you guys know about the scoring? And she's like, oh, we know absolutely nothing. They haven't told us anything. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you can have Hunter come on or Austin and be like, yeah, the winner is so-and-so in 15 to 20 minutes at that's a really long time. You can do that in 5 minutes. If the scoring's transparent and you have everything already built out. The fact that it took an hour or two at least. I mean, the image I saw, it was pitch black when they were doing awards. That doesn't need to take that long.
Ida made it easy for the women's side, but
that's
only the top. Like the rest of it, how do you know who's 2, 3?
What did she take in FUBAR?
She didn't do super great.
Not fantastic, but.
So how would you score it? Let's just say we have this theoretical round 2 of Battle Bunker. What would you submit to Hunter? Hey, man, this is how we should score it.
Distance.
Well, I don't even know what they did. And I also wouldn't change the event the same day. I wouldn't make FUBAR into a running event. I mean, yes, it was work capacity, but I would have just said time and then you have 6 minutes. I would have just left it and people would have DNF'd and then you would just get as rep count like CrossFit does.
Yeah. If you have 5 reps of each movement times, 5 cleans, 5 squats. So 10, you run 100 meters, then you do 10 more. Yeah, just take your percent of reps if you can't get through all of them without starting the run. So you got 39 out of 40 reps and you take that ratio. And then if not, you just do the minimum or the distance that you covered in the run afterwards.
But as Rich was saying, I would just keep it as placement based. Lowest placement wins. And then
I think it should be asked, what if someone crushes an event so much and then second place is way slower? You don't think that there should be some type of gap? And I see that smirk in your face, Brock. And I'm not. No,
this is the age-old debate. I'm not taking a side. Yeah. It's you either do it straight across, so a total distance, and then you have to make a score distance for all, total time. Then the score must be time for all, or total points. Then you can have distance, time. It doesn't matter. But do you reward percent of winner or percent of victory? That's always the age. Yeah. That's the debate. I think that's where you start is do we reward spectacular performances or do we not?
In a multiple event format, you are trying to pick your points where you're going to do better than the rest of the people. If you happen to be a really strong athlete on sandbag cleans or really good at an obstacle course, what do you think Leon was doing? You don't think he was like, I'm putting all my eggs in this obstacle course basket? Like,
I think he sold out.
Leon did great in all the events for Leon's size and strength. Like,
I know that. I'm saying, but like clearly he knew he was not going to finish at the top of the pack when sandbags were involved, but he knew he was going to do really well in the obstacle events. So he prioritized overperforming there and just.
Did you watch him in Fubar though? He literally collapsed.
Yeah.
Like he made it out of the gate and just like died.
But what was his top end potential in that versus the other event? That's what I'm saying. Like even if he.
But did he hold back in Fubar?
No, I agree with you there, but yeah.
Here's the way because I don't have a feeling actually one way or the other on should you reward spectacular performances or should it just be first is 1, second is 2, no matter what. And I think it depends. Is the competition gated or not? Do you have to qualify in? If you have to qualify in, it basically speaks to the fact that people are pretty even across the board. And then you reward spectacular events like decathlon. If you have to qualify to the Olympics and you are head and shoulders above everyone else in javelin, like, reward that. Or in hurdles, reward it. But if it's just a cross section of humanity, which is what these pop-ups are, I mean, a cross section of sporting humanity, then someone comes in and can do one spectacular thing and they suck at the other two. It raises their other two to look like a better finish, which I don't think should be rewarded either.
Look at Lindsay versus the rest of the women's field this entire year. She's been so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's fair that there's simply one place gap, like with her victory size over everybody throughout she's been so much more outstanding than everyone else
but that doesn't even matter because she's still winning everything.
I know that, but I'm saying like
you win more.
Yeah, can you win better?
Well, maybe you can look back and be like, she had the most dominant season because she had a bigger gap on everybody, as opposed to here just the flat rate scoring points.
But you see those stats every day. The general populace doesn't care or know.
I know, but you don't need to look at the numbers. I'm just saying the concept of should you be rewarded more for having a more outstanding performance. I think yes, regardless of what the numbers behind it actually say, I think if you overperform, you should have a bigger point margin versus the person behind you.
Yeah, I think one thing, Bragan, I think it depends on, again, the athlete pool, but also like the spectrum of athletes. Mm-hmm. So if we look at Spartan Games, you have like professional ultra athletes coming in, and then you have CrossFitters. I don't think that scenario should really reward those performances, because when you put a CrossFitter versus an ultra athlete in an ultra event, obviously the ultra athlete's going to win by, it's not even comparable. And then vice versa in like a weight event or resistance or like CrossFit event, they can't do anything. I think an event like this, it is not necessarily the cream of the crop athletes, and they're all fairly similar. So you could have it, but also some of the athletes at kind of the bottom of it, their times aren't even comparable to league times. And they would get almost negative points if you did it based on that.
That's that controlled entry piece I was talking about. That if you can't have everyone come in relatively even playing field, there's no reason to promote an outlier event. And then the other thing, like the whole Lindsay thing is, well, take a look at the finishing gap. Like if we wanted to do that for Blue Mountain for the most recent, there's a 19-minute gap between third and fourth, or 11-minute gap or whatever. If that happens, like, does fourth place in your mind then deserve less points because other people didn't show up? I don't know. I just can't think of a sport. I can't think of a major sport that rewards that as a factor in did you do well or not. I think if you look at ball sports, if you like, blowouts don't count for more than one win. If you look at the Olympics outside of decathlon, nothing counts. It's these pop-up events are more similar to decathlon than anything else because you're testing multiple skills. I think if you're only testing one event, it's just finish order.
Isn't the decathlon a great example though? You're taking a percent.
Yeah, that's one though.
Yeah, but that's literally a table scoring of percent of winner realistically.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. For a pop-up event, maybe alternate scoring matters, but in just a race, I can't say.
But
that
it's
it
not a
does.
race. It's a, accumulation of 4 or 5 races in a series.
I don't think we've seen yet a reason. I can see the validity of what you're proposing, but I can see the downsides. I haven't seen a downside of the other one. No one's ever had some spectacular races and then lost out because the spectacular races weren't rewarded. Like first is still first.
I think you can take it outside of the organization itself, and that would be like a sponsor discussion, or even the races putting on like, if you win by this much or whatever, we'll give you extra. Then that would be an incentive. But I think for events over time, they want to keep it as fair as possible and still keep interest. If people go, so in the Lindsay situation, second through anyone else may not race as they might like sandbag and not push Lindsay because there's no point. Like they're not going to get first, but the other stuff will play a factor. Racing the other people and not first place. And that's where you could see sponsors coming in as well, being like, hey, I'm stomping everyone in these races. Like if I win by this much time gap or this percentage, maybe there's a podium bonus or something.
Is that like the World Marathon majors where it's like, if you break 2:05, we'll give you an extra $10,000 or something, whatever the timing.
Course records.
Yeah.
I'm only playing devil's advocate because I actually don't care much. So I'm taking the opposite to you, Jack. So in your scenario, would you then in NFL, if 2 teams went 10-5, would the team with higher margin, average margin of victory, would they be rewarded? Like, would you see that happening in ball sports?
I mean, that's a completely different. I'd look at like strength of schedule. So what's your opponent's head-to-head record versus your opponent's head-to-head record, and then see who has the better, who's faced.
So you would dive deep into it, and you would make those changes in ball sports too.
If you're looking at like a tiebreaker, yeah. So I think it's a really good spot for a tiebreaker. Like that time differential is great for tiebreaker scenarios. Like if you points wise, if the placement evens out, it's phenomenal to have that as a tiebreaker.
The problem with it is it doesn't only reward the winner for being good. It rewards the winner for other people not showing up or for doing poorly. For example, let's say Emma and Annie didn't show up in Blue Mountain. Lindsay's score would have been astronomical without doing any better.
But, well, hers would be the same, whatever you cap it at. Ariel's would have been worse for 4th.
So you're leaving number 1 as perfect score no matter what. So that's the opposite of
points or whatever. Yeah,
that's the opposite of decathlon then.
I know.
Decathlon's rewarded for spectacular.
How can you compare courses? Really, in theory, the fastest you can run is the fastest time that day for your gender.
Okay,
that's what I'm basing off of.
Okay.
And I'm not saying.
I thought you were going off the decathlon style scoring because you said they do it in decathlon. That's what
I was thinking of, a way in which there's an example of percent of winner or margin of victory actually existing, and you kind of mentioned it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I'm not saying you need to score it live like that. Say that we look at like the 40 U.S. National Series races or whatever, or major races that have happened, and on average, second place is 3% slower than first. Give like 97 points for second place, instead of 99, 98, 96. You just look at what it's always been, and here, we'll just use that as our simple numbers going forward. Something like that. Just because it represents what typically happens. You don't need to live score it like that. I just think it'll be a better, more fair breakdown for athletes in general.
For the ones who win.
Yeah. In theory, I like the idea of, if no one shows up and you take second, you don't get second place points.
Yeah.
You get whatever you earn based on percent of winner. However, I don't like it because I don't think fair exists in the world or sport. I like the idea of you keep what you kill. And you showed up there and everyone had the chance to take second and you're the one who took it. I think you deserve that. So I see both sides, but I don't know.
And I see your point. The objective is to beat people. You beat everyone except one person. You get second. Like I get that perspective from it. I'm just thinking, if you're looking at it over the course of a series or a season or multiple events, I think you need to reward outstanding performances over time, as opposed to a one-off event where it's just like, hey, it's a world championship. I got second because I beat everyone except for first.
So what do you do in the case of Eliud Kipchoge then, where he runs 2:01:39 and someone takes second place in 2:02:40, the third fastest time in history, but his percentage of winner is worse than the year before when they all ran 2:05:01, 2:05:02, 2:05:03. Are you punished for being successful?
That's not a series. That's an individual result.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If someone comes out and pops something crazy, let's say like Emma comes out and crushes Tahoe, and Annie has a spectacular race in second that would have been faster than any other year, but Emma was there. And then they get to Blue Mountain and Annie takes third, and Emma and Lindsay's so far out, just on one that day. So like, do you get in that system, do you get punished for outkicking your own coverage, but someone else outkicked even greater? Like you might have had the second best performance of all time, but you got less percentage of winner than the loser did last year. So you actually get less points for doing better than they did last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the previous time to beat wasn't there before. But it's so hard to do in events like this because no two courses are the same realistically. And no, you're never going to have the same feels. I don't know. I totally see where you're coming from. Like I obviously believe in what I believe. It's cool.
I'm not saying I believe it, but if you ran a marathon world major series, for example, and you ran 2:03 on the dot every single race this year, every other year in history until the last three, that would have netted you 5 firsts.
Yeah.
And this year it netted you 5 seconds and you lost by 2 minutes. You're going to have the second best historical season ever and have the worst second place score ever.
So I have something that is, I don't know if it's ever been implemented, but kind of a weird idea that takes advantages of beating people and also being close. But like you'll have your standard 1, 2, 3, 4 like placement points, and then you'll also get bonuses depending on how far you were from the person ahead of you, as well as the person behind you. So say for like second place in Blue Mountain, decently far, but they also, and I think they were, I don't know.
It was like 9 minutes for Lindsay and Emma.
Yeah. So Lindsay would get bonus points, and then who took second, Emma would get she wouldn't get any bonus points. But if Emma had beat third, who was that? Annie?
Annie was like 4 minutes behind. Yeah.
Okay. She would get bonus points because 4 minutes is still a decent gap, and just cascading down and looking at ahead and behind what those gaps are, and that can play a role with bonus points. I don't know the exact point structure or how it would play. It could be multipliers or whatever. But that's an option to also showcase individual performance because it shows that you beat the next person by a lot, even though you did get beat by the person ahead of you by a decent amount.
So here's my closing argument. My belief on scoring system is that if you can't explain it to a child while you're watching it on the sofa, it's not destined to be embraced by America.
I think that's a great idea, Bracken, but I like my idea.
I'm not saying it's better or worse.
No,
I just think that simpler is always better so that everyone understands it.
I like math.
People are always talking about simple is better, or we want this, we want that, and then it gets implemented, and then they just critique it, whether it's the 3K format, the number of obstacles, getting rid of this type of carry.
Just scoring.
I know, but I'm saying like simple is what people want in general, and then it happens, and then there's always critiques on it. But
all I know is that if you could name off 5 or 6 of the most popular sports on earth, they all have super simple scoring systems.
Yeah. I don't know. Football is semi-complicated.
There's only like 4 rules to football.
4.
There's more than that, but
touchdown, extra point, field goal, safety.
Drop kick. Right there, get that 1 point.
That's a field goal. That's 3.
There's
only 4 types of points.
1 point. Doug Flutie got it. It's a technicality.
The drop kick is worth 1. Still only 4 types of points you can score. 1, 3, 6, or 2. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
And the extra point.
Extra point is 1.
Yeah.
There's only 4 types of scoring, and
values of scoring, not
correct.
Types. Yeah,
that's right.
You don't have to use a calculator.
I have a client meeting. It's been fun. I wish you the best of luck figuring out the scoring system to rule the world.
Richie,
all right, I'm back, so that's perfect timing.
Yeah,
you get your coffee, you take a nap, you pull a mat.
That was
Thanks,
it. I had. See you, Ian. Thanks
Ian.
for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I had to get my 3rd cup of coffee for the day. I couldn't wait for after the podcast. Huge line. It was a whole fucking thing. Yeah. But we're back.
Do you have fire alarms go off and they're all hardwired to each other?
I live in an apartment building.
So they're all going?
They're all going. It was so loud. Oh my God. There's a fire truck out here, but everybody walked back in. So
I thought it was in my house. That's how loud it was. And like, I'm looking at the fire.
yeah, Ian took his headphones off.
We had one go off this week, so I thought it was me at first.
Man, everybody's safe.
You know what else went off this week?
Sirens anyway, but
yeah, my Airdyne batteries died and let off a high pitched whine squeal.
What?
I walked down in the morning. I'm like, what is that sound?
It's that important. You must.
I mean, they're
massive batteries.
Massive D-cell batteries, but
did we talk about who actually won this event? Or did we get off?
Isaiah and Ida. Yeah, the eyes.
We got off into a percentage of winner, which I was expecting would happen. But
we're just giving different opinions on it, and like who's, what would you recommend? What actually works? So
yeah, for this one, I don't know if you guys saw, but there wasn't enough events to score it the way that they do. Like you would need a bigger sample size of events to really get out with one winner. 3 events isn't enough to not do percentage of winner in something like this, I think, in my opinion. Or the depth of field needs to be better because on both men and women's side,
we kind of like crazy. Yeah,
drop off was really bad. Drop off was really bad. But it was Ida, then Jareen Klingberg representing New Sanity took second. And then Lauren Weeks ended up third. I think Lauren was second. Definitely in that first event. And
did you go the wrong way? Who was the one who ran the wrong direction?
It was Ida.
That was Ida?
Yeah.
You'd think she'd know better, but
it's time zone stuff. Who knows her hemisphere?
Yeah.
Denmark, who knows how they run around a track. They must run some. That track looked nice. There was 10 lanes in the sprint lanes.
Yeah. I was watching with Braden. He was next to me and he said, "Why is she running that direction?" So he right away.
Is he the NASCAR fan?
He's a NASCAR fan.
Left turns.
He knows.
All road courses, they go different directions.
I've got a quick tangent for you guys. So I had this debate earlier. I wear my watch on my right hand. I'm right-handed. And I believe I do that and I've always done it because you're making a bunch of left turns and it's just easier to press the buttons with your left hand while running on a track. What arm do you guys put it on?
Right. Sorry. Left arm.
Left. I think left is what they teach you. I don't necessarily know if there's a right or wrong in this.
Yeah. I was just trying to logic my way through it because almost everybody I asked is all on team left. I'm like, why am I different? But
I think it's just
your offhand.
But I'm right-handed. So
no, I'm saying that's why everyone else does it.
Yeah.
Just so it doesn't get in the way of you doing your if you have a nice watch or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's a running watch. I don't necessarily think it's a running watch thing. I think it's
was just trying to justify it. I'm like, maybe it's because I take lefts and I'm pressing. I don't know.
So why do you think it's easier to do a left hand while turning left than a right while turning left?
I don't know. Maybe I think I'm just better.
Seems the same.
I have more dexterity with my left fingers, even though I'm right-handed. I don't know.
What I know is that start, stop, and lap are almost always on the inside of the watch.
Oh, that's weird because they're always on the top for me. That's how I think of it.
Oh, it is on the inside for me.
So if I put it on my right side here, then I have to cross my body to do it. On this side, I cross less when I'm running.
Yeah.
I don't have to reach to the far side. I reach to the inside.
Yeah. Maybe that's why
I'm not saying that's why I do it, but it's certainly a reason why I've never changed away from it.
It's probably why they're designed like that.
Designed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Left
Designed.
The Timex, the Ironman used to be the split button was right on the front of it.
Oh yeah.
At the bottom.
Remember that. Better believe
that one was always hard to hit.
Do you have this one, like the old school Timex?
Hell yeah. I've had that for I just gave up on that
batteries. I haven't changed the batteries since 2013 and it's still working. So
that's the hardest one to hit split on though, because that button's recessed in there a little. Not that one though. The skinnier version is harder to hit. It's a little sticky.
Yeah. I think about going back to those all the time. Like this GPS watch sucks so bad.
Too much heart rate these days. That's what I care about.
Then on the men's side, Isaiah took it. Kent was second. Jared Newby was third. I think they were all basically tied. Then we had VJ, Rylan, Cole. Rylan was really impressive on that first event.
Oh my goodness.
If he could muscle up, he would have been on the podium, right?
Probably.
Is that what happened?
It didn't seem like anybody was doing muscle ups on that last.
Okay,
everyone was kind of using their feet.
It took him a minute, and Cole ended up beating him with a minute deficit on that last obstacle.
Yeah, I think his grip just got smoked at the end. He didn't do very well in Fubar either. There was a clip of him dropping the weight during the squat. So I mean, that's something that's a little bit more functional. But his engine was still there. Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe that was painful for him.
I gotta say, like, it makes me feel pretty good about beating Isaiah a couple weeks ago after seeing him do this.
Dude, you would have won this.
No, I don't think so. Not with that weight.
ABC theorem, you're the winner.
Yeah.
Well, VJ beat him the other week and didn't beat him this time, but it's a good sign.
But he didn't beat you.
Theorem? Is that the right theorem to quote?
ABC. I think it's
yeah, right there.
The transitive property theorem.
Transitive property. Yeah. So congratulations on your win, Jack.
Oh yeah, no, I'm expecting the check any day. You just mentioned
cash.
Ryland. That
ship
might be. What was that?
It says cash. You can't send it.
Okay, that's true. Yeah. Ryland, that would be a good transition into Trifecta World Championships since he is heading over there.
He's going, man. He's
already there.
He's already there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's in Spain currently.
Oh, I saw a video last night. He was like in Germany, so I assumed.
Or Germany, maybe.
10 hours he made it to Greece.
He's not in Utah. He's
taking a trip with his brother, and I think they're hitting more than one country along the way.
God, that's a smart idea.
I'm guessing they're gonna do some adventure stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a Euro trip.
So last time we saw a Trifecta Championship, was it 2019?
It's been 3 years. Yeah.
So the reigning champ there, that was Richard Heineck. Was Woods did he end up second or third?
No, all European. Sergey and Albert Soleil were the other two.
Woods crumbled in the beast.
Yes.
He took off first in the beast because they do the time stagger, and then I think he failed the balance beam and then just got gobbled down in the second half of that beast because
he was dealing with.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite ones to rewatch. I love that coverage.
Yeah,
it's just great. Anyways, you see him cresting the top of it's not a mountain, but like the village and going down this hard packed dirt.
Oh yeah,
and he looks how it feels to run downhill when your legs are blown up.
Killian had a solid start also, but I think he ended up getting fifth. I think Woods finished ahead of him overall, right?
In an endurance sport where we talk about the energy systems and kind of back to what we first were talking about with the 1K into 3K, like how, motocross might be different because whatever. Is it an advantage to start by yourself after you do two good races in front and get and amass a lead, like to immediately be hunted in a race where everybody is relatively fresh?
I think it depends on your makeup as an athlete. I don't think it's like energy. I don't know if energy system plays into it. I think like you give a Killian something like that, and he's going to feed off of it.
Yeah.
But you give someone
him early on.
Yeah. I think it would be tougher for a Woods than a Killian. I think Woods likes to separate. I think Killian likes to just control from the front.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to know, like, especially in OCR, how well you're racing. If you have like some perceived exertion, but a lot of it is based on how you're doing based on your competitors. And you don't have that. Like he was by himself and just got cut down as it went.
There's so many sections of OCR, and we've talked about this before in episodes, but where you're going through it, and if there's no one next to you, you're thinking, I could be gaining or losing 30 seconds in this section.
All
Technical
the time.
terrain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your only litmus is the people are you separating or sticking with. It's why getting gapped in OCR. Sometimes we tell people go out harder because once you get gapped, like you can't even match cadence through certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Even power hiking. Sometimes the correct time to power hike is when someone else is power hiking.
Exactly. And that it takes it. So the Trifecta, Jack, could you explain how the weekend kind of works? And have they made any changes to it? And Bracken, you could probably chime in since you've watched the coverage. Yeah. Once a week.
Nah, this one's 2 to 3 times a year.
Are you watching the full coverage or like the 15-minute? Okay. Cause that
depends on the workout.
They've got that hype up music right there, like whatever instrumental track they have on that. It's like, oh, that makes me want to work out right now.
If I'm doing the treadmill challenge or if I'm doing intervals that are short, then I throw on the recap. If I'm doing a long run or an easy run, I throw on the full coverage.
Racing full.
They're doing like the spear throw in the river, barbed wire crawl in the river. Like it's a sick course. But
and anyway, so it is. Does it go in order from shortest to longest, or is it like a regular Trifecta weekend? No, because a regular Trifecta weekend here in the States, it'd be like long would be the Beast would be on Saturday, Super would be Sunday morning, Sprint would be Sunday afternoon. That's not how this works. How do they kind of set this up? I'm almost
positive that they're sticking with the same format, and it will be shortest to longest. So start with the Sprint on Friday afternoon, And I think it's like at noon on Friday, not like a super early start. And then Sunday or Saturday is going to be the super. Sunday ends with the beast. And the way that they format that, they add up your sprint and super times. Say that it takes you, I don't know, an hour 15 minutes, and then someone else is an hour 16. The person who has an hour 15, if that was the fastest, goes off. And then there's a 1 minute gap in between those two athletes. 1 minute later, they'll send you off. And they do it for men and women. So the first place male and first place female take off at the same exact time for the beast.
Okay.
And
So it's 3 different days, but they don't do that for the super based on the sprint results?
No.
Okay.
It's not 3 different days.
It's a pack race.
It's 2 days?
No, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Is it really? I thought sprint super were the same day.
I'll look it up. Keep talking on. I thought they changed it this year.
Either way, they don't do the time stagger until the beast.
I don't love that.
It's interesting because with the new style, the sprint plus the super does not equal the beast distance. With 5K, 10K, half
it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
In the past, you could have a 5-mile sprint. You could have
9-mile super.
8 to 10-mile super. All races matter a little bit more. Now, the first 2 are not even same equal distance to the third, which means that the racing really starts at the beast. It's now about mitigating for the first 2 races.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Jack, what did you say?
Oh, I've got the schedule. Friday, 12 o'clock men, 12:05 p.m. women for the sprint. Saturday, 9 a.m., 9:05 for men and women for the super. And then on Sunday, it is it says Elite Beast men and women staggered start begins at 8 and then through 8:30. No one's going to be a half an hour separated on the first 2 events. But
I was wrong.
Yep. I think in the past it was Saturday morning the sprint and then Saturday afternoon the super, and then you run the beast on Sunday. But I think they're having 3 separate days this time. So it's a true stage race.
Do they do that for Golden Trail? Do they let people go off based off of how much lead they have, or are they always in a group and then they just add it up at the end? I thought it was the latter.
Yeah, so you're taking just the simple summation of your times. Everyone starts together the whole time. That's probably the case realistically, but I don't know. Isn't it in like road racing? They have like, speed time trial stages, and that sets you up for seeding for later on. I thought that they have.
There's seeding for events. Some. Cross country skiing and biathlon will do that. Sorry, what was that first example? Golden Trail. They time trialed the 3K early, but that just determined corral placement.
Right.
Starting off the next race, but it's still a mass start.
And in that stage, I think they do have a mass start each time. Tour de France, that's time based. Do they do this for that?
Only on the last day, I believe.
So that's what they're basing this off of.
I think on the last day, it's so that the winner gets to ride in alone. I believe that's what it is, right, Jack?
That sounds right. I haven't watched the Tour de France extensively for a few years, but that's ringing a bell.
Started to, man. That is boring. My goodness, it's so long. Sheesh. So they're probably basing it off of that then, right? They want to have, but I still don't see it.
It's for sure. Basically, all it comes down to is who did you finish ahead of physically in the beast.
It makes it easier to understand where you stand.
It makes the finish line so much more impactful.
Right.
It also helps every single person other than maybe first place.
I think so.
And it helps each person significantly more the further you get back in the field, because you have more to chase. If you're second place and you start out 30 seconds ahead of third place, that doesn't help you one bit.
Nope.
I just want to rather start with them because they're going to make that up. They can make that up in the first half mile if they want to and just be on your shoulder. 30 seconds is a lot, but a 10-second gap, you just make that right away, and then you just run together. But you now have to get that back and beat them by 10 seconds. It's just tough. I guess that logic at the end isn't true. You don't have to beat them by 10, but it's tough.
At that point, do you go like 99% effort at the beginning and just wait for a pack to go with you and save a little bit for yourself? Like how do you approach that?
In road or trail racing, I think so. Because you want to be closing, but knowing you slip off.
Roll the dice, though. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
You have to be closing
really
the
tricky.
beast, though. That's what we saw with Heineck. If you have steam in the second half of day 2 or day 3, you're set. That's what you need.
We're not going to do a full-on draft here, but Ryland's going. We know that much. Any other U.S.-based or North American-based athletes headed out?
Rose and
Chris
Chris
is going?
will be there. Yep.
And
Who
Rose
else is?
too. Interesting.
Rose Wetzel.
Rose and Chris.
Rose is going there. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm scrolling through the athlete guide trying to find the official thing. They released it like early October, so I'm sure you're gonna have some late entrants and stuff to try to see who's there. But
does
Chris
anyone know why
Could
Rose didn't do Blue Mountain then and finish off the series?
be the case. Didn't you do the
Maybe
rest of
it's
the
the
events though?
It was the resources thing. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
her place couldn't have changed too much. I don't know if she was necessarily impacted incredibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If we look back at this in 2019, the last time I'm on this page in the athlete guide, Richard Heineck, Sergey Perelagin, Albert Soleil, 1, 2, 3, Ryan Woods, Robert Killian, 6th, Ryan Atkins. Who would have ever thought that would happen?
He was the favorite to win, and I'm fairly certain he had some injury going on.
He hurt his back or something beforehand.
Went out the day
Didn't he-
before.
Didn't he
or
miss
something?
the spear every time too?
Yeah.
The tough spear
And
weekend.
he was like the one who missed it.
Right.
I think his back locked up like maybe the day before or something like that.
Yeah.
Because you would think that like a trifecta event for someone like him who has such a huge capacity would be like handed to him.
Yeah.
Love to
so
see
I'm-
he and John there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the list. John's not on it, and this says updated October 2022. So I don't know if that's October 1st.
Could have been
mid-October,
yesterday.
whatever. Yeah, I've seen this one before, so I don't think that it's been updated. It looks like Ethan Brown, also from the U.S., will be there. We've seen him throughout the national series.
He's
Christian
the
Scherr.
he's a blonde haired dude, I think.
Yep.
Back in one time he
Young-
thought he was
younger guy.
Nick Mask. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I'll never
and
make
then-
that mistake again, Ethan.
Don't let it happen.
And then Christian Scherr from Mexico and IZZ will be there. So
Yeah.
our favorite name to mention. But yeah, it doesn't look like a ton of like even Chris. Oh, Chris is on the list. Rylan is not, but I know he's heading over there. Rose Wetzel's not on this. So I don't believe this is a fully updated list. But those are the main like North Americans to look out for.
Can we expect an Albert Soleil or Richard Heineck again?
I don't see Soleil. I know Heineck's going there because I messaged. Yeah, he's on the list also. You've got like Miriam Guillaume hasn't really raced this year. I think she did one early on, but that's it because she hurt her back. But yeah, you've got like Gregory Basilico, Igor Belisov, who had the OCR Worlds podiums. Let's see some other names. Just going alphabetically.
You said Basilico's going?
Yeah. Richard Heineck, he'll be there. Thomas Buell.
Did you guys watch Spartan Euro Championships?
Not yet.
Oh my goodness, are these guys fast?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that course like?
Nasty.
Yeah.
It was 2,000 plus vertical gain with never more than like 150-foot hill. So it's just up, down, up to this the entire time.
Looked like Ireland terrain, a lot of that like
Yeah.
scraggly, scruffy stuff that you're running through.
Yeah.
They were flying.
Yeah.
And they're good at obstacles.
You're doing research for the Abu Dhabi draft bracket. That's good
That's
work.
right.
Nice.
You'll get
I
info,
gotta
but-
catch up.
Last time I checked, there's not that type of terrain in Abu Dhabi though. So
We don't know what they have yet.
that's true.
Darn it, I want to know what the course is.
Ooh, hold on. Sorry. I'm looking at this athlete guide. Chris Marone, he's kind of a new face. He's been on Savage
Another
podium.
name.
He probably has like 3 or 4 US podiums this year. He's on the list as well. I see there. So another American to look for. Yanka Popova, she'll be there.
Where are you getting this list?
On the page, there's an athlete guide, and then it's just I just clicked on the brochure, and it's on like page 27.
I think it's the biggest thing I miss not having, because I will admit Spartan's live tracking, we trashed during event number 1, and it's gotten a whole lot better. I'll give them props for that. They shored up their product.
I haven't had to do it because you guys have been doing such a great job with the coverage. So I haven't had to like sit there and watch. Anyway, interrupted.
I've had a bunch of athletes do other events, and it's always live tracking. You can see it. It's nice. But the thing I miss about Athlinks is that who's registered for the race list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a time where Spartan was just like, they're just auto-registering everybody for who was like on the pro team. So Atkins and Kent were on every list, but you could tell who people that weren't on it, which was kind of cool.
Yep. Yeah, I just sent in, if you guys wanted to pull it up, I sent it in the group chat, the list of athletes, or the athlete guide, and it's on page 27. But I was just reading off, kind of the big names. Alyssa Petrova, who got on the podium in Abu Dhabi, she'll be there as well. So should be a pretty good women's battle.
You think Chris could win this?
With her endurance? Yeah.
She's not going to be worried about how she feels the next day, where other people might.
Yeah.
No, and that's a huge thing in this. Just being able to race all three. That is a huge, huge weapon. If I went over there in peak fitness, I would be thinking about the next races, even though I was telling myself not to. It'd be impossible not to get to that bad point in the race and think, I don't know if I can go with this because tomorrow I'm going to be smashed.
100%.
Yeah, some recklessness is definitely would be helpful.
So who would your dream field be? Who would you put in here?
I would love to. Lindsay's never done it. I would love to see her toe the line. Like, she's got the legs to last a few days as well.
She's
like Nicole, Lindsay, and Zuzana right there. It's a good battle.
Did Nicole win this last time?
Nicole and Zuzana have won this in the past. So that's why I would love to see. And then the first year, like Faye and Alyssa went over, but one of them, I forget which one. I think Faye only ran the beast and then didn't run the other two. And it didn't have the hype of this. It was more like, we're holding an event in the home of Sparta. Like that was just kind of what it was. It was technically a Trifecta World Championship, but it didn't have the hype.
Is this only the third time there's going to be like a champion?
This will be the fourth. Yeah.
I'd love to see John do it.
He won in 18, but he lost one of the races.
Yes, he did.
He got like third behind Soleil and Richard Heineck, I believe.
Wow. Good for
that was ahead before Heineck had his breakout. So.
Forget how young he is. Looks like he's like 45.
Richard Heineck?
He's like 24.
Is he like the Christian Blumfeld or the triathlete who won gold this year? Like, that guy doesn't look young.
They both have a big chest cavity.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
No, Heineck's the real deal. Just won European champs. So.
Spoiler alert, Rich.
Yeah.
I know. We just got
if you didn't see that yet, that's on you.
Spoiler alert. We have to slap that on the episode.
I'll update my draft guide so I can be up to date on where everybody lands.
Yep. So they have they have team captains by country, and then trifecta and virtual trifecta. Do you want to guess who the US team captains are and the virtual team captain? I don't know what virtual
KG
is.
Robert Killian.
KG is one of them. Yep, for the US. I don't know the other two. I'll just name them off. If you know them, then you would. Jeremy Zitska and Michelle Feed, Fede.
Zitska? Isn't there a Peter Zitska who's
different spelling, and this guy's it's a different spelling. And then the virtual captain is Cole DeRosa. I don't know what his role is, but he's the virtual captain.
Hopefully he's providing coverage on the dunes.
He's the best there is. Yeah.
Anybody watch this? Like, I must admit, I'm not that excited about this.
I love it.
Really? I love this race.
I did watch the previous year, and I should get dialed in this year, but I guess it's just like, who's going? What does it mean? It's so different outside of anything else that we do in OCR for the entire season. It's very standalone, So it's another world championship. Kirk is shaking his damn head, I'm sure, wherever he is right now, talking about these world champions. But I don't know. I'm just not that enthused.
We do have an overabundance of world championships in this realm.
In this very small sport.
We can just say the Trifecta Championship. We don't have to say World Championship.
Yeah. DECA, however, world.
Rich, you're in danger of just leaving OCR entirely and being fully hybrid. You're not going to watch the Trifecta Champs. You're just not that into this, not into that. It doesn't really move my needle, but Deca, oh baby.
I watched the Rogue Invitational, some of it anyway. Also very cool. I'll watch the Trifecta just so I can come talk to you guys.
You know how we're usually saying like World Championship, it needs participation outside of the US? Like that's kind of what really defines it. What do you think the number one registered country is for participants? First place has 528 registered athletes. Second most populated country attending has 154. So first place has by far the most countries. What is it?
Great Britain.
Rich, what do you think?
Does he get all like? Is that? He said UK. Does he get like Ireland and all that shit?
That's what you want.
It's not. But it sounds like that's wrong.
Probably the US.
Yeah.
The US, more than a quarter of the people who sign up are from the US. So always ends up being that. Yeah.
And then the UK?
France, then the UK.
France.
Germany, Czech Republic also have more than 100 athletes attending for all heats.
You know, I'm German and Czech, along with Irish.
You're in there.
So I might try to switch allegiances for this Trifecta next year.
Yeah, do it.
Would this be something you guys would want to do?
I would.
Yeah, I'd love
until day 3.
Yeah, until that beast. Yeah, I wish if it was flipped. Why? Yeah, and because that is how we would technically do it. We do the beast first, and then to be shorter. Going short to long is particularly brutal.
But don't we want that from an energy standpoint? Like, you don't want to be going super red line in a short event on day 3. Like, isn't it better technically to go to lower, higher end speed?
I would like it less, just from like like lining up there and be like, okay,
I don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to.
I have the hardest one. Yeah, I want to get the hardest one out of the way.
Yeah.
I believe it rewards the different type of athletes the best. I think that running a sprint after already having raced 15, 18 miles is really like running a super or a beast. Like I think that skill sets represented, it makes sense to go short to long.
Okay.
I think that it rewards the sprinters and it rewards the endurance people, because the endurance people get their race when everyone's already tired. So they're rewarded for that. And the sprinters get to do their thing when they're fresh, rather than everyone does or not everyone, but the sprinters do their things when they're smashed.
It's still heavily weighted towards the beast, realistically, with like whoever crosses the line first. Yeah. Like that's all it comes down to realistically, but it's a cool format.
It's interesting that you don't have to win any of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
no, you have to win the beast if you want to win. Total.
Well, you'll cross the line first, but you don't have to even have close to the fastest time.
True. Like someone in 10th could just not make up enough time and finish.
You could be second and win. You could be fourth if the people ahead of you blow up in different races.
So. I think whoever wins the beast is the winner.
Yeah, but
whoever crosses the line first.
They don't have to have the fastest time. They might. Chances are they would, but say like there's a beast specialist or someone who missed 3 obstacles the day before they start 8th and they still can't make up that time difference. And they end up 3rd crossing the line. Their time for the beast might be faster than the person who ends up winning, but they would cross the line.
I still don't think so. I thought it was whoever wins the beast ends up being the winner.
Crosses the line, because it's a stagger and time start. They stagger it so that whoever crosses the line first is the winner.
Okay, yeah, I guess, but they're probably gonna have the.
They're probably going to win. They're probably likely, but they don't have to. Yeah.
That'd be pretty improbable. Someone had a crappy day 1 and 2, and then just blows everyone out, but doesn't end up winning. Like they're closing hard to make up the stagger, but they can't. That probably won't happen. But I see.
You have to have multiple obstacles.
You have to miss the obstacles. Yeah,
it's like the NFL team that needs like 4 teams to tie in week 16. It's like, okay, yes, it can happen. It's probably not.
It can't happen. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, we got this to look forward to this weekend, and then it's World's Toughest. Correct. We have a couple events in a row. We have this.
Then Deca.
World's Toughest. Bummer about Batris. Did you see? He's not going to be. He's not going to be in. That's tough. That's tough.
I had a college teammate with that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that just like your body just like telling you?
It could be many different things. He ended up not missing time. But the
you also wasn't
are varied.
And your college teammate wasn't preparing for a 24-hour race. He's probably doing the 800.
Correct. Not too many of those in college.
Yeah. So but this world's toughest is still shaping up to be probably the best world's toughest that we've ever seen, most competitive wise.
Bummer that Ray and Atkins won't be there.
I know.
Yeah, I can't say it's the most competitive.
Goddamn,
Really?
Veerman, that's gonna be, and Josh, and
I can't say it's not.
Trevor Psychos.
You don't have the best person in any field there, arguably. Without Ryan, without Mark, without Lindsay, without Rhea, it's hard to say the best, but it's hard to argue against it. I'm just not giving it the clear-cut best.
In terms of depth, I would argue.
Depth, sure, I'll give it depth.
The most deep, so the most competitive.
It might make it the most competitive by not having Ryan or Lindsay or Rhea there. It might make it the most interesting.
Man, I wish
Veerman has
Atkins
beaten twice in a row. Yeah.
That'd be so awesome to see Atkins go against Mark Cadet and Tyler. I think, Josh Reed is not going to be easy to deal with at this race.
His is health. Will his shoulder hold up for 24 hours? Like, it's been a while, but
that'll be fine.
That's the thing.
Gaudet has the skill set to beat anyone. He has that trump card, which is I'm the fastest ultra runner here.
Yep.
And apparently doesn't need sleep and doesn't lose grip strength.
Is not worried about nighttime. He wants it.
No.
He wants it. And he's like just by nature of being in the military, he has spent time in many geographical parts of the country. And so like this like Alabama, Florida situation, he's been around it.
Rich, when we were in the car in Palm Beach, like he was telling us all the places he's lived. It's like, holy, you've literally lived in every climate in the U.S. It seems.
There's no surprises for him in this race.
Yeah, and the special forces stuff doesn't always sometimes it's overplayed, sometimes it's not, but I don't think that most people realize how uncomfortable they make you. Like they find the nasty places to train special forces. They take them to the worst spots. That he just won't encounter anything that's shocking to him.
No. And not that Tough Mudder is this as a brand is going to be like this. They're trying to put you in the torture chamber, how Spartan might, but that's still like cold water. It's like pretty uncomfortable. Yeah. How about Anthony Kunkel? What are we to make of this?
Nicodemus Holland is what I'm seeing right there. Do you remember him? He
educate me.
First 12 hours of a World's Toughest Mudder, he hit like 65 miles and was just crushing people. And it was like, well, game over. And then his inexperience just caught up to him, and I think he DNF'd, or he got like 80 something miles. Like he had a rough second half.
Anthony could win this thing. I'm not convinced he's significantly faster than Mark. In fact, he's not significantly faster. If you look
Mark's
at their
JFK 50 proves it. Yeah.
You add in terrain. I don't know. We haven't seen Anthony on slop. We know Mark's not the best on slop. We know how sloppy he's going to be. What it comes down to me is how much work has he done? He has the tools to do it, but how much actual grip strength and obstacle work has he done? He's surrounded by people who love OCR.
Mm-hmm. And like his size would be a detriment in a Spartan race.
Yes.
This is not it. This is all grip, which could probably be in his benefit if he has been working on it. And I think where he has excelled in the past is road, like ultra distance on road. So I don't know what sloppy, muddy, wet suit
he'll be fine.
Type stuff.
Well, he's California. Yeah. Generally. California and Colorado.
Durango, yeah.
So he's not sloppy. He runs plenty of trails, but we've never seen him in mud.
Right. And
I don't know how muddy this is going to be, but
I bet it's going to be fucking muddy.
I think it's going to be a slop fest.
Yep.
At the very least, sandy.
Yeah.
So he has the skill set to, at the very least, just be like a stick in the spokes. He's gonna shake it up in there.
Yeah. Chris Mendoza, was he going to be there?
He is. Yeah.
Man.
He'll be dangerous. Trevor Psychos getting overlooked. Javier Escobar.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be, and like women's side, you've got Katie Knight, right? She's coming back, defending champ, right? So
we think, Callie.
Yeah, Callie. I'm excited to see her. Yep.
It's the wrong type of obstacle course for her, just pure skill set wise. But over the course of 24 hours, maybe it turns back into a strength for her. The fact that she's never going to take chances on obstacles. She's never going to do anything spectacular on a rig, but she just might be steady Eddie for so long that she doesn't blow up.
Yeah. And these obstacles probably a little bit more technical than Spartan obstacles, but not that much more.
Just body awareness for a lot of stuff, and just
they're more interesting, but they're
more fun.
Nasty.
No, right.
Like Kong, it's just a higher rings. That's all it is. It's like,
yeah,
it looks cool, but is it really more difficult? You're just swinging ring to ring.
Funky Monkey, great.
Some of the tough ones where you have to release and hit bells.
Yeah.
I think that rewards Callie's frame.
Yeah.
She just, a lot of the times you see a bunch of guys get through as Rhea's struggling, and Rhea, who has gymnastics background, but just can't quite have the wingspan. And some guys are doing it next to her that don't have any of her skills. And Callie is nearly 6 foot.
Yeah. Got good hand-eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. It's something we got to look forward to. Then we got DECA. That's go time.
That right there.
Did you decide on a shoe yet, Rich?
No. Do we want to?
I was going to ask you guys also.
Let's talk it out. Let's do it. I was thinking about it today. I was like, I need to order shoes right now. So Jack, what I was thinking is just kind of I've been looking at some reviews for the Rebel V3. They seem good, but again, that's going to be more of a trainer. Bracken and I talked about what is the racer version of that? The Pacer? Yeah.
That's New Balance, right?
New Balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pace. I'd bring the Fuel Cell Elite. I mean, the RC Elite version 1. And I love that Takumi Sen 8.
That's right. You had been talking about that. And you could probably get that on discount somewhere if you really looked for it.
You can get around 100.
So things to consider is tight turns, potential concrete floor. There's really nothing that is going to be that you're going to need to account for in terms of obstacles. A crazy shoe like an Alpha Fly or a Vaporfly just doesn't really fit into the pedals of a rower. Probably don't want it, but good rubber on the bottom. And those are the main things to consider for it. It's like a plate could work.
Light rubber. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good to know.
Mm-hmm. What are you thinking, Jack?
I was almost thinking, I'm basically probably just going to go on Running Warehouse and just find one that I would know that I would feel comfortable wearing in a stadium race, and look up some traction reviews, but I'll probably run a few of them by you. But in general, I don't think cornering is going to help, but I don't think it's going to be like that slippery or anything. It's not like,
Rich had some cornering issues. It's New Jersey. It's Atlantic City. It's not going to be clean.
It's going to be dusty.
And I guess we are going later in the day when the sweat will have been pouring. Okay. Something to consider. Good point.
More dirt coming in from outside and people running around. That's what it is. And they're not going to bring out a mop or one of those floor Zambonis to like clear
I wouldn't be shocked if Yancey sprints around a mop around that course right before you guys go.
I think I think that you would get good odds to bet on it.
Over under, it's going to have negative odds associated with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we could see him doing that for sure. The old basketball, big broom.
He'll get a cyborg janitor. So.
So I don't know. I need to order some shoes either today or I might just play it safe. But I would maybe I'll try that Pace, whatever it is. Just get a little plate in there, see how it feels, because that midsole compound is nice.
A little bit.
All right, what do you got in the Run Public this week?
Well, Kirk's out hunting, camping. So we pre-recorded last week. So we have an AMA today. And then Kirk and I walk through our athlinks and quiz each other on races that look interesting.
And you're just going to tell race stories?
Yeah, some of it's race stories. Some of it's talking about some of the training that whatever jumped out at us. I look at, there was one called it was like the full Woodsy, and he won it. I didn't know what that was, and so he told me
Woods
about
for
it.
sure. Yeah.
Oh,
it has nothing to do with Woods. His first college race, last college race, first OCR race, just some outliers. He took like 62nd at Tahoe one year, and then 11th 2 years later. So just some race stories, reactions to the race, what you remember about it. We started it to do an episode on why it's not good to just look at people's athlinks to predict whether you should hang with them or not in a race. That there's context behind races. Like Kirk had a 17 or like a 1935K or something in there, but he ran it with his sister. Or
right.
Like I had a rate. It does, and then it just turned into a bit of a story hour as well.
Nice.
And this
What about you?
This counts toward your podcast number to 300. You're counting these ones?
Oh, what does that
Oh,
mean?
okay.
Bracken,
No,
I
I
remember
just asking.
you had a term once. I think it was like pre-cooked meals or something like that. You were describing those pre-recorded podcasts, and
I don't know
you
what
kind
that
of
would mean.
shamed. I thought you shamed Rich or someone for it once.
That wouldn't have been me.
Doesn't sound like it.
I remember
I
every
remember
word I ever
pre-cooked
said.
meals was
The
like
name.
the term.
That sounds like Bracken, but I don't think she would.
I love pre-cooked. I love leftovers.
I actually pre-recorded too. I actually had Lindsay Webster on this week, and she came through right at the last second. And I had Ian. I had recorded with Ian Hosek, so he'll be on Monday. So I actually got a little bit of breathing room this week, which is nice.
Yeah.
Nice to have. So
286, I think we hit this week.
you're way ahead of me now. I'm like 260.
Are you going to reach 1 million listens before?
It'll probably be around the same time. I think we're at 890.
Oh, you're going to hold a, we're going to track whoever this millionth listener is.
Who the millionth listener is.
Free month of training.
I'm going to run the last, probably a million kilometers nonstop for that last episode.
Yeah.
How many, how the t-shirt, still t-shirts available?
There's still some t-shirts available. Mine still haven't arrived. What is this world? My own company t-shirts aren't on my body.
Got to check with shipping.
Someone messaged me yesterday like, no shirt. I'm like, yeah, welcome to the club, guy.
All right, fellas, this is a fun one. We covered some ground, so we'll be back next week talking about the results from Trifecta, talking about some ultra stuff, and just whatever else comes up in this next week or so. So thanks for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on podcast, take a look at our Patreon if you want to help support the show. Jack has a Patreon-supported microphone.
It will be used next time. I've just been a busy man.
I haven't used Prime, so make sure you get it to you real quick. Came on the weekend.
Get someone a wedding gift. You show up to their house a year later. It's still in the package on the floor.
I bet Rich has something like that.
Unbelievable.
I didn't have time. Rip it open, USB plug into it, boom.
Hey,
select it in the green room.
Toggle, select it.
I mean, it's a beautiful.
I bet if we timed you right now, it would be under 60 seconds. We're not gonna, because you've lost that privilege, but it's under 60 seconds to set up.
Right here, I could do it. Okay, I'll time it and I'll get you the result. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll test it out later.
Well, so make sure you tune into next week's episode so you can see how long it took Jack to plug in that microphone.
Big numbers. Yep.
Tease. All right, fellas. Talk to you soon.
See you, boys.
See ya.